growth in debt increases inequality. If the government taxes individuals, it means those individuals are able to spend less. And a government uses that to pay off debt, the government itself is not using those tax dollars to spend more, so the math is obvious. The folks being taxed spend less, the government spending the same, GDP shrinks.
Think back to 2008, when the big financial crisis hit. It was a tough time, right? Well, guess what? We're now facing something even bigger. The world's debt has shot up to an unbelievable $300 trillion. This isn't just about numbers, it's about us, our lives, and what's going to happen next. In this video, I'll break it all down for you. We'll see how this huge debt is changing things for people everywhere and talk about what we can do. And trust me, I've got some surprising insights and solutions you probably won't see coming. So stay tuned, because we're about to reveal a story that's not just about global finance, but about our future, and I promise it's going to be an eye-opener. First up, let's talk about this massive number, $300 trillion. That's a number with 14 zeros. It's hard to even picture, right? Imagine if we all worked without pay. It would still take us over 3 years to clear this debt. That's the size of the global crisis we're facing today. It's not just some scary number, it's a real threat hanging over our world's economy. Now you might be wondering, why should this huge number matter to you? Well, it's like a ticking time bomb for our global financial stability. Think about it. When countries are buried in debt, it affects everything from the job market to the prices at the grocery store. We're all affected by this problem, not just the big players. Let's break it down with some facts and figures. According to a report by Bloomberg, one of the top threats to the global economy in 2024 is this skyrocketing debt. But it's not just about governments owing money. This debt trickles down and affects everyday people, you and me. For example, the World Economic Forum points out that the financial and tech sectors are also feeling the heat from this debt crisis. It's a chain reaction that can lead to job losses, higher prices, and even affect our savings and investments. So what does this all mean for us? Well, it's simple. We need to be aware and prepared. Whether it's saving more, understanding how global economics affect our local economies, or just being more financially savvy, it's time to pay attention. After all, $300 trillion is not just a number, it is a warning for everyone. Now let's talk about how this huge $300 trillion debt affects our daily lives. It's easy to think of these numbers as something distant, something that only concerns big countries and economists. But the truth is, it's a lot closer to home than you might think. Just think about this. Countries that owe a lot of money have less money to spend on things like healthcare, education, and building up their country. This means fewer jobs, lower quality services, and even higher taxes for us. It's like a domino effect. One thing leads to another, and before you know it, it's affecting your daily life. But it's not just about public services. This level of debt also means that countries might have to borrow more, and often at higher interest rates. Who do you guys think ends up paying for that? That's right, it's us, the taxpayers. Higher interest rates can mean everything from more expensive loans for buying a house to higher credit card rates. According to CNN, world leaders are seriously worried about this mountain of debt and its ripple effect on global economies. It's not just talk, these are real concerns. This could lead to real problems for all of us. And here's something to think about. Deloitte's Global Economic Outlook for 2024 suggests the global economy might slow down because of this debt. A slower economy can mean fewer job opportunities and lower wages. Everything begins with those large numbers and eventually hits our pockets. So what can we do about it? First, understanding the situation is key. We need to be aware of how global financial trends can affect our local economies. And second, it's about being smart with our money. Saving more, spending wisely, and staying informed can make a big difference in how we navigate these challenging times. Moving on, the financial crisis of 2008 is what we need to discuss now. You might remember it as a time of major economic turmoil. But did you know its effects are still resonating in 2024? It's like a shadow that's been following us for over a decade and a half. Back in 2008, we saw banks fail, stock markets crash, and millions lose their jobs. It was a wake-up call on how interconnected our global economy is. Fast forward to today, and we're still feeling the ripples of that crisis. For example, the real estate projects in Dubai, like the World Islands, were symbols of economic strength before the crisis. Now, they stand as reminders of what happens when financial bubbles burst. But why should we care about something that happened so long ago? Here's why. The decisions, they're still impacting us. According to McKinsey & Company, the financial sector, which took a big hit during the 2008 crisis, is still in a delicate state. This means that our banks, the very institutions we rely on for our savings and loans, are still recovering. And it's not just about banks. The 2008 crisis taught us a hard lesson about risk and responsibility. As Bloomberg reports, the global economy's growth in 2024 is still sluggish, partly due to the long-term effects of that crisis. So what's the takeaway here? It's that the decisions made in the world of finance aren't just numbers on a screen. They have real-world consequences that can last for years, even decades. And as we look at our current situation with a $300 trillion global debt, it's a reminder that the lessons of the past are vital for our future. We need to understand these connections to make better financial choices, both as individuals and as a society. Moving on, let's focus on Argentina, a country that's become almost synonymous with the debt crisis. Argentina's struggle with debt isn't just a recent issue. It's a saga that's been unfolding for years, and as of 2024, it's still a major concern. A country rich in resources and potential, yet repeatedly finding itself in the struggle of economic turmoil. Argentina's story is a stark example of how chronic debt can cripple a nation's economy and impact its citizens. It's a cycle of borrowing, spending, and then struggling to pay it back, which has led to repeated instances of economic collapse. In recent times, Argentinians have taken to the streets to protest against austerity measures, a direct result of the government's efforts to manage its massive debts. These protests are a vivid illustration of the human cost of financial mismanagement. But why does Argentina keep falling into this debt trap? One reason is the government's reliance on printing money to pay off debts, leading to inflation and economic instability. CNN reports on how this practice has contributed to the country's financial struggles. It's a short-term solution with long-term consequences, affecting everything from the value of the peso to the cost of living for ordinary Argentinians. And the situation is far from resolved. As of 2024, Argentina is confronting a debt bomb of around $400 billion, posing a significant risk of default. This level of debt not only threatens the country's financial stability, but also has a big impact on the global economy. Now let's turn our attention to how debt is impacting wealthy nations in 2024. It's a common misconception that debt issues are confined to developing countries. However, the reality is that even the most prosperous nations are dealing with their own debt challenges. In countries like the United States, Germany, and Japan, debt isn't just a government problem, it's a concern for every citizen. For example, in the U.S., the national debt has reached levels that were once unthinkable. This isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet, it's about real consequences for people like you and me. Higher national debt can lead to increased taxes and reduced public services. It can even shake the stability of the economy. But it's not just the government's debt that's a concern. Household debt in these wealthy nations is also soaring. With easy access to credit, many families find themselves in a cycle of borrowing and spending that's hard to break. According to the Bank of America, global debt, including that of households, hit a record high of $307 trillion in 2023. This level of debt can lead to financial instability and even crisis, affecting everything from the housing markets to retirement savings. Deloitte's Global Economic Outlook for 2024 also highlights the challenges wealthy nations face, including inflation, labor shortages, and of course, debts. These issues are interconnected, and debt plays a central role in shaping the economic landscape. So, what does this mean for the average person living in a wealthy nation? It means being more cautious with personal finances, understanding broader economic trends, and preparing for more potential changes in the economy. It's about recognizing that even in prosperous countries, debt can have far-reaching effects into our lives. Now let's look at a surprising and troubling trend in the United States, the return of debtors' prisons. Yes, you heard that right. In 2024, despite being a thing of the past, debtors' prisons are making an alarming comeback in the U.S. The American Civil Liberties Union has shed light on this disturbing trend. They report that the poor are disproportionately affected, getting trapped in a cycle of debt and jail time. It's a system that unfairly targets those who are already struggling financially. The Harvard Gazette reveals that states like Texas and Wisconsin have seen thousands jailed annually for debt-related issues. This practice not only undermines justice, but also highlights the growing issue of economic inequality in the U.S. The resurgence of debtors' prisons is a stark reminder of the deep-rooted problems within the American financial and legal systems. It's a call to action for reform, emphasizing the need for a fairer system that supports rather than penalizes the financially vulnerable. So with all this talk about the global debt crisis, you might be wondering, is there a way out of this? Well, the answer is yes. There are several innovative and compassionate approaches being explored around the world. One important strategy is policy reform aimed at increasing economic growth. By implementing smart tax reforms and capturing more revenue, countries can improve their debt metrics and avoid a costly crisis. This approach is highlighted in a Global Issues article, emphasizing the need for countries to proactively work on mobilizing funding at lower costs. But what about individuals like you and me? Well, personal bankruptcy, though a tough choice, can sometimes be a necessary step to get back on track. It's about acknowledging the situation and taking steps to reset financially. And then there are traditional savings schemes like Africa's Tonton, a community-based approach where members contribute to and benefit from a collective fund. It's a system that encourages saving and mutual support, helping communities weather financial storms together. And that's the global debt crisis in a nutshell. It's big, it's complex, but most importantly, it's a human issue. What are your thoughts? Let's discuss this in the comments below. If you found this insightful, hit that like button, subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next video.